All right, let's dive in. Today we're talking about the life of Yukariko Najima. And it's a fascinating story, really. It's all about this quiet independence, this fierce passion, and a kind of personal strength that, really stuck with everyone who knew her. Her story kind of makes you step back and think, what makes a life truly memorable?
I mean, what does make a life legendary? Is it about these huge public accomplishments? Or is it more about the unique, super personal way someone just decides to live day in and day out? Let's kind of hold on to that question as we get into Yukariko's story.
So get this. For about 10 years, she was known as a legendary teacher. Legendary. That's not a word you just throw around, right? Especially for a teacher at a local prep school. So you have to ask, how in the world did she earn that title? Well, the answer actually starts way back, with this independent streak that was obvious from when she was just a little kid.
So yeah, let's talk about her unconventional start. It tells you so much. Seriously, one choice she made as a kid basically set the tone for her entire life. A life lived completely on her own terms. Okay, so Yukariko was born back in 1946, right after the war, in Kagoshima City, down in southern Japan. She was raised by her mom and her big brother. And right from the get-go, people noticed she just had this strong sense of who she was. And that quality? Oh, it was about to show up in a really, really big way.
Okay, so get this. In elementary school, she just stopped going for a whole year. Now, this wasn't some kid just skipping school to mess around. No, she just wasn't vibing with the super rigid school system. So what did she do? She took charge. She made her own strict study schedule at home. And guess what? She absolutely crushed it academically. I mean, that one move tells you everything you need to know about her discipline and that independent fire she had even as a little girl.
So that same spirit, that same independence, it totally carried her right into her young adult years. She packed her bags, left her hometown, and set out to build a completely new life for herself in the middle of Tokyo.
And wow, that next decade in Tokyo was just a blur of activity. So in '65, she moves there to study English at Sophia University. Pretty quickly, she meets the man who would become her husband, Hiroshi. After she graduates, bam, she gets a job, they get married in '72, and then her two kids, Kigo and Yuki, come along. You can just see it, right? Each one of these steps was another brick she was laying for this independent life she was building.
Okay, so now we get to the part of the story where she really makes her name. This is it. This is where her incredible mind, her mastery of English, and that fierce independence we've been talking about, they all come together and just perfectly define her career as this amazing teacher.
So how does she become legendary? Well, it started small, just tutoring kids from the neighborhood, right from her own home. But word gets around. Pretty soon, her reputation exploded, and she's teaching advanced English to students who are shooting for the absolute top schools in Japan. And get this, she didn't use textbooks. She created all her own teaching materials from scratch on a word processor, and they were amazing. For a solid 10 years, if you wanted results, she was the person you went to. Simple as that. But her life was so much more than just her job. After she retired from teaching, she just poured all that energy into a ton of other passions. It really proved she was always learning, always exploring, just a woman with so many different interests. I mean, look at this. Her life after retirement was just packed. She got into painting, she started learning French, she was always at the local fitness club working on her health. But there were two things that really truly stood out above everything else: her family and her cats.
13. Yeah, you heard that right. 13. She wasn't just like a cat person. She was a full-on passionate cat lover. At one point, she had 13 cats living in her house. But wait, it gets even better.
So when the family decided to rebuild their house, she had one non-negotiable demand. She needed a special room built just for the cats. And not just any room, a room with its own floor heating. The family always joked that the cats had it better than they did.
And that deep love, that incredible dedication, it absolutely extended to her grandkids. For the two who lived close by, she was always there, a really hands-on grandma. But for her grandchild all the way in New York, She figured out how to close that distance. They'd get on FaceTime every single day so she could teach them Japanese. Every single day. That's love.
And so, as we get to the end of her story, you can really see how that quiet strength she had her whole life also defined her final years. It's how she left behind this incredible legacy of love.
Her health did start to decline in her later years. She had a stroke during the pandemic, and then in July of 2024, she was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And even with the really tough prognosis, that classic resilience, it just shone through. She actually responded to treatment so well that she was able to be home with her family for the new year. She just faced every single challenge with this incredible strength.
And so, this life that she lived with such fierce, independence, it ended in the most loving way possible. She passed away peacefully in the hospital at 79, just completely surrounded by her family, the family she had built and loved her entire life.
So we come back to that question from the beginning, don't we? What makes a life legendary? I think Yukariko Nakajima's story shows us that maybe it's not just about a title. It's about the gutsy, independent choices you make. It's about the knowledge you share. It's about the love you pour into your passions, whether that's teaching students or taking care of cats. And it's about the connections you build. Which kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. How will your passions shape the story that you leave behind?